Hollow Knight Silksong is a thrilling and flawless metroidvania about a spider who was raised by bees. Leave it to Australians to come up with something like that. I've never played a metroidvania I haven't enjoyed, but Silksong is more spectacular than usual for so many reasons as to keep me from deciding where to begin this discussion. Why don't we start with the part I had correctly predicted would be my favorite, bosses. Everyone loves a challenging boss, right? They're a critical aspect of any Souls or Souls-like experience. But Silksong distinguishes itself from contemporaries by taking a more pedagogical approach, such that early bosses are straightforward and barely lethal, while the final few bosses are genuinely the hardest in the game. In theory, this is the objective of all games that include bosses, but Silksong is among the few boss-heavy games that totally nail this feeling of progression. What has Team Cherry achieved to fine-tune bosses since the last game? To discern this, let's take a quick look at enemies. As with the original Hollow Knight, early enemies are simple, but they're not the same as the last games. Instead of capitalizing on endless nail-biting combat scenarios, Silksong capitalizes on uniqueness. Despite a simple two-dimensional environment, enemies and bosses are fantastic because they're unique. Yes, early bosses are simple enough for you to survive your first try, but they offer two important lessons to develop your mastery as a player. Not only do they teach you how to play the game in general, but they also ready you for more difficult versions of similar bosses later. The most difficult bosses in the game are actually main bosses, rather than optional bosses, so prepare to die as usual. Because these bosses are so unique, almost everyone serves as a spoiler, but maybe I'll relinquish just one of my favorites without offering any context whatsoever. Take these clockwork wasps, for example. Double boss bad. Not this one. The clockwork wasps telegraph their moves in a manageable way at first, but they progress to infinite pandemonium as the tempo of their dance quickens. By the final stage of the boss, the fiends telegraph their moves at different times, making them much more difficult to track. But even within the context of this single boss, the clockwork twins give you something to work with before pummeling you. Rather than infinite difficulty, the strength of this game lies in infinite diversity of progressively more challenging experiences. If a game were too hard, you wouldn't like it. I typically talk about enemies as being diverse, but that's not the only aspect of Silksong that's diverse. Silksong's map is not just good, it's not just great, it's crazy. That's the only way I can accurately describe it. Secret rooms behind illusory walls contain genuinely useful consumables, upgrades, prerequisites for upgrades, or currency for buying upgrades. Exploring will never disappoint you because every single area is fun. I certainly couldn't tell you which is my favorite. Nearly a decade ago, Hollow Knight offered one of the best Metroidvania maps in the history of gaming. Meanwhile, Team Cherry has only improved upon the original map. I think Farloom is a lot more fun to explore than Hallow Nest because the former expands and reconnects to itself in a much less predictable way. How does navigating Metroidvanias usually work? Well, you find the mobility upgrade, call it a grappling hook or a double jump, and voila, you may access a new area. Maybe that new area reconnects to an old area at some point. In Silksong, you can expect many of the same mobility upgrades in Hollow Knight, but you'll also find keys to doors on the other side of the kingdom. New areas will connect directly to 3 or 5 distinct regions. While I haven't played Hollow Knight since its release at the end of 2017, Farloom feels about twice as big as Hallow Nest, maybe more. I'd say it's twice as weird too. Players can venture everywhere from frosty peaks, poisonous jungles, silent deserts, and coral reefs to impossibly high spires, clockwork fortresses, bandit hideouts, and abandoned chapels. You may also recall the dream bosses from the first game. Silksong features these as well as dream areas to explore. My favorite thing about Silksong's map is how Team Cherry has handled the poison area. No Souls or Souls-like game is complete without a poison area that nobody likes, including the most die-hard fans. The most immediate difference between Silksong's poison area and Blight Town is that the poison doesn't damage you, only inhibiting your capacity to heal and use silk abilities. Poison areas are dark and spooky, leaving players more vulnerable than usual, so no one likes staying there for long. How does Silksong address this issue? There's one checkpoint, one secret checkpoint that I'm not allowed to tell you about, and one boss. which means the entire area is nothing beyond an unusually long boss route. You don't like being here? No problem. Your objective is to blow through this place as quickly as possible. Is the long boss route, not to mention the punishing boss at the end of it, among the most taxing challenges in the game? For sure. Is it the most fun I've ever had with a poison area in my life? Absolutely. The best challenges give and take. We gamers become so angry that we curse out the boss and turn off our consoles. But if the game weren't that challenging, we wouldn't love it as much as we do. With regard to side quests, all I can say is they're not boring. They're just not. Instead of chores, you can expect tracking quests that lead to optional bosses, as well as the return of the courier quest from the first game in the form of multiple courier quests. Side quests are more than a resource grind. In fact, clearing the side quest journal is necessary to progress through the main quest line for reasons that could potentially be spoilers. I've always had the nagging feeling that side quests can never be the pride and joy of an adventure game, but Silksong features some of the best side quests I've ever experienced, if you can even call them that. A major reason why these challenges are so engaging is Silksong's protagonist, Hornet. In contrast against her rotund predecessor, Hornet's nimble frame suggests impossible agility, proficiency with grappling hooks, and a wide arsenal of tricky throwable gadgets. In the most important ways, she's not much different, but a roguish exterior and a handy grappling hook mesh much more closely with a metroidvania experience. Hornet is fast, powerful, and resilient. She can launch her grappling hook at a flying enemy to leap out of harm's way, tap into devastating silk abilities while striking from all directions, and heal 3 notches of health in 2 seconds. Tweak your experience a bit further by switching among several crests to unlock at different stages of the game. Each crest features different attacks and different restoration abilities beside basic healing. Along with collectible health, silk capacity, and rare base damage upgrades, which existed in the previous game, crests are a more peripheral part of progression in Silksong. But at the core of this progression's success is how the game handles trinkets. In the first game, you could assign trinkets from a massive catalog to any notches you've unlocked. I think there were about a dozen notches. The more powerful the trinket, the more notches that trinket would require. Silksong simplifies trinkets in 2 important ways. Each trinket takes the same amount of space, and there are 2 different types of trinkets, such that you select trinkets from smaller catalogs. Your crest will influence the trinkets you can use, but let's start with the default crest, which supports 2 yellow trinkets and 2 blue trinkets. Yellow trinkets offer utilitarian bonuses, such as the compass, which reveals Hornet's location on the map, or a necklace that boosts how much money she obtains from each kill. Blue trinkets are mainly for defense, boosting Hornet's capacity to heal, negating fatal blows, and returning damage to enemies. Instead of selecting among 40 trinkets to fill 10 slots, you select among a dozen trinkets for 2 slots, and a separate dozen for another 2 slots. Customization is simpler because there aren't as many choices, not the RPG connoisseur's cup of tea, but perfect for a Metroidvania in my mind. Metroidvanias don't usually offer much in terms of customization, and there's not much customization in Silksong either, but at least the few choices Silksong offers go a long way, genuinely changing the way you play the game. You know what else has to go a long way in 2-dimensional Metroidvanias? Narrative. For games like Silksong, a writer must convey a smorgasbord of lore in as few words as possible. One of the reasons Silksong's story captivates us and succeeds is not only through the various distinct characters, but because Farloom is as foreign to Hornet as it is to us. She and we are learning about this strange kingdom at the same time, making our informants more like Cs instead of NPCs, and these Cs make for an A+ experience. Silksong expresses its narrative mainly through written dialogue. Certainly, the characters make noises, but they're no more comprehensible than Sims or adults in Charlie Brown. Team Cherry makes the experience of reading dialogue a bit more fun by suggesting different accents with certain wording. Har 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 is just jest, of course. Us flea's famous for giving jokes. Oi, we thought one of them buzzing bullies was sneaking up on us, but it's just a mangy jailbug. Even if I didn't do that, you'd still get the same impression. Whether you're chatting with an NPC about an esoteric side quest with a handsome reward, or accosting a main boss behind whom to experience the rest of the game, Silksong has personality. It wants to show you what it's all about, and tease you into learning more about the world of Farloom, an ancient kingdom in which a regal class of spiders oversaw the ordinary insects of the citizenry. Because it's a loom that's far away. Threads, webs, spiders. Tracing her lineage to the powerful spiders herself, Hornet will ultimately have to decide whether to conquer the kingdom as its new queen, or liberate the insects from their arachnid overlords. After all, what good is a Souls-like if you can't break a cycle? As a strong contender for Game of the Year, Silksong is definitely in my top 20, if not my top 10. This spectacular multimedia experience sets new standards for what's necessary to be among the best Metroidvanias on the market, namely incredibly balanced bosses, impeccable level design, and exploration that always results in tangible rewards. I highly recommend Silksong not only to Metroidvania fans who enjoy dying at the hands of a challenging boss many times, but also to anyone who appreciates games. Everything from visual art and music to combat and game design makes for a brilliant piece of media in general, right up there with some of the best movies I've seen. Not that I know anything about music, but I prefer Silksong's music to that of the original. I don't think it has anything to do with the intrinsic nature of the scoring, it just sounds more like it involves live instruments, rather than synthetic ones on a keyboard. And maybe that's not even true. Whatever it is, something about it just sounds better to me. Though many years have passed since Silksong's announcement, I'm so grateful it's finally come our way. I had high expectations, and it still exceeded them. Without further ado, all I can say is, I hope you love it as much as I do because it's awesome. Hands down, it's the silkiest game I've played in the last 5 years, maybe ever.